Hello, friends, and welcome to our reading sessions that I'm doing with Unplugged Trails. We've started reading this book, Why Meditation by Swami Shyam. And yesterday I began reading a few pages. So let's continue today with day two of our reading. And yesterday he was talking about how when you learn to meditate, you connect with that inner life force, your real self, and how it helps you make more and more happy, healthy, and free and strong. So let's read further today. Man does not have to live his life in pain, suffering, struggle, and disease. No, not at all. My philosophy of life is to live life joyfully as long as one dwells on earth. The quality of life is Sat Chit Anand, which means pure existence, pure consciousness, and pure bliss. Thus, life is nothing other than eternal consciousness and bliss forever in existence. This eternal existence, consciousness, and bliss is the true nature of life. Many people have come to regard life in various ways, such as the life of a man or a woman, life in old age, youth, or childhood, the life of a householder or of a bachelor, the life of an animal, of a bird, and so on. In this way, people understand the meaning of life to be its various forms, colors, kinds, and conditions. Whereas life is always one in all of its stages. So, what we have learned to attribute is sort of giving a definition to whose life it is. But he's saying that life itself is this one field. It is the same life in all stages, through which the stages are actually the stages of the body. But otherwise, life per se is one field. It is this life that I refer when I say Sat Chit Anand, whose qualities are pure existence, pure consciousness, and pure bliss, the eternal truth. The wonder of it all is that we seem to have forgotten this truth. How have we forgotten? This forgetfulness is just like that of a man who has forgotten that he is already wearing his glasses and begins to search for them. There sit his glasses, already in place, but still he searches and begins to think that he cannot read or even see properly. He becomes helpless and agitated, believing that unless he finds his glasses, his life is totally useless. In the same way, the Atma, self or life, is always within the man with its qualities of Satchit Anand, that is, immortality, consciousness, and joy. All authentic scriptures, such as the Vedas, say that this joy of the Absolute does not reside somewhere outside of yourself so that you have to import it, but rather the self is always within you. Nobody on earth is without it. However, it appears that man is not able to derive joy and the sense of immortality from his present life, even though the quality of the self is eternal bliss. I think it is so well said that we're always searching for something external to complete us, to fulfill us, to make us happy. Whereas this life force, this Atma, is within us. And that is the source of our joy. So it's already with us. There is no um, coming, like there's like how he says, you don't have to have something to feel joyful, right? A voice spoke within me, telling me to remind everyone of his own true nature by letting the words Amaram Ham, Madhuram Ham be heard by one and all. This is essentially the mantra that he taught us all the time. And he said that it came to him. The meaning of these words is that we are all immortal beings. We are all blissful beings. We should repeat these words as many times as possible in order to remember that our glasses are in place, that we are immortal and blissful. We must not forget. It is very, very simple. But once we have forgotten, it is difficult to remember again. And there is no way to find our glasses unless we receive information from outside ourselves. So, for the information to come to you, you need somebody outside who already knows this, right? I think that's the role guru plays in our life, or our teacher play in our life. The one who gives this information is called the master. He's the master because he can see the glasses on our eyes and thus always knows where they are, even though we have forgotten. This is my role, to point out this common error and to inform you of the truth which everyone seems to have forgotten. I remind you by saying that you are all right, you are perfect, you are undying, you are immortal, you are blissful. Even after hearing this, you do not want to believe that your mind has a cover and is so terribly mistaken. This is why I want to introduce you the technique of paying attention to your own life force by meditating on yourself, the pure space of Sat Chit Anand. That's why it's so beautiful that he explains that even if I tell you, you will not be convinced unless it becomes your experience. And for that, you should practice meditation. And what you should practice on this very own life source that is you, that is within you. And that's pure space of Satchita. By doing so, you will realize the power of your own true nature and overcome the mistake of forgetfulness committed by most people. For example, a man traveling and staying at hotels in other countries totally forgets that he owns a house in his own country and loses the sense of security which comes from knowing that his own house is always there, which is Satchitanand. As another example, a man of enormous wealth, constantly living with impoverished people, forgets about his own wealthy nature and cannot make use of it. In this way, everyone's real nature has disappeared, out of sight and out of mind. Yet, we do not have to make great efforts to achieve something. That something is already within us. Whatever you're enjoying in the outside world is nothing other than your own manifestation. However, being placed on the outside, things become limited by the dimensions of time and space, and thus you derive less joy from them. This is proven when you have enjoyed something once or twice, but are not fully satisfied and want to repeat those interactions with objects or persons again and again, hoping that someday you will gain perfect satisfaction. We have observed that so many people, even though they spend a lifetime of 100 years trying to attain perfect satisfaction through interaction with objects and persons in the outside world, ultimately fail and die empty handed. So, here is trying to tell us how this seeking outside, limited within the time and space, limited within this life form, is never going to feel satisfactory. It's like this desire, one desire, you want to satisfy that desire, then another arises, then another arises, and then another arises. There is no perfect satisfaction. I would not like to disturb your, sorry, having tuned into the self, Where was I? Yeah. Therefore, you have to turn your attention inwards towards your own self, where bliss lies in its essential form. Having tuned into the self for even a split second, you gain satisfaction. And this satisfaction, and in this satisfaction, you can work 100 times better than even when you're dissatisfied, agitated, and tense. So he's saying to look inwards gives you that infinite satisfaction and happiness that is conditionless, right? Like it's not going to, it doesn't feel like it's going to get over and you'll have to do something to get more. It is attuning yourself to something that is already in you, that is your very essential nature. So it's going to be with you always. I would not like to disturb your concept or belief that joy lies outside in objects, things, and persons. It is certainly there, but I would like you to understand for yourself that you cannot get perfect satisfaction out of this kind of enjoyment. Therefore, consider the joy which appears outside in objects and persons and the joy within you, and ask yourself who, in fact, is the real enjoyer. When you see an object or meet a person, the joy of the experience comes from within you. Thus, you enjoy. A dog takes a bone in his mouth, thinking that joy lies within this object. Certainly, the bone contains some joy, for it is solid and smooth. When the dog chews the dry bone, it splinters, cutting his own gums. He keeps chewing and sucking his own blood, tasting and drinking it, thinking that it is the bone which is full of joy. He never wants to leave the bone, and wherever he goes, he takes this bone along with him. Sometimes a clever dog buries his bone so that later, having attained to other things, he can fall upon it once again. This has become the fashion of the modern man whose attention is always on objects and who forgets that if he were not there, the object would be sitting idle. You may have a television, a radio, a sofa set, and many toys. You may have the nicest paintings, every commodity in your house, and food sitting in your kitchen, waiting to be eaten. But without you, of what use is this material? And where would the taste for it be? So it is me, the self, that adds life, that adds joy to things that otherwise are of no meaning to somebody who doesn't know that the value of them. This means that in relation to the joys of all things, you are the most important thing. Yet man pays more attention to things than to himself. I want to remind you that your own self is of the greatest importance. Without you, things and persons would be meaningless and useless. That is what you have to meditate upon. You must be aware that is each aspect of joy, the one contained in outer objects, persons, and things, and the other contained within yourself, has its own value. The joy contained in objects differs from the joy that is felt inside, but without both aspects, joy is not felt. Thus, you cannot give up everything that is outside, nor can you give up or destroy your own inner self. We'll read further tomorrow. So, thank you for listening, and let's see what he says um, after knowing that within and without, you cannot deny it. Beautiful. See you all in the next episode. Bye bye. Lots of love.